Daylighting. Oh yeah, daylighting. You love that daylighting. Daylighting.
Just a little aside before continuing on these controllers, answering a question, is the LS301 Title 24 compliant in the state of California? And it's an interesting question. We have this set up with about 35 foot candles of daylight coming in. It's been set for a partial of 52.5. I'm reading 52.5. And control voltage of about 6.25. If I am in an area under the 2013 or 2016 code that does not require multi-level control but might still require daylighting, good to go with just a toggle switch, and maybe the healthiest way to go with this. However, if I'm in an area that requires multi-level controls, it's over 100 square feet, etc., etc., this unit comes with a personal remote that can be used to dim it up and down. So let's see what the action of this personal remote is and whether we think this is Title 24 compliant or not. Okay, so here we are, right back up to 52. I can try the up arrow now. We know we can take it down. There we are, 47.5. Whatever, it'll mellow out and stick there, 47, 48, because it's not in auto right now. Okay, don't make a liar out of me. Come on down. There we go. Take it down to 40 and some change, 41, and it'll stick down there. Okay. The question is, can we take it above the daylighting set point using this control? So I'm just going to hit the up arrow. I'm at 5 volts. 6 volts, 7 volts, 8 volts, good enough. Yeah. So we can override the daylighting set point using this multi-level control. Does this violate acceptance testing? Well, no. There's no acceptance test in the reference appendices, NA 7.6, addressing overriding of a daylighting system with a control. But if we look in section 130.1, it tells you that one control shall not override. And let me put this back in auto while I'm talking, bring it back down to 52. You can't override a control from one section of 130.1 with a control from another section in 130.1. As it turns out, there's some confusion now about the term override that needs to be clarified, but in my opinion, the ability to take the thing above set point and have it hang up there is out of code, but it doesn't violate acceptance testing criteria. And this is not the only device like this that is currently in use in the state of California, I'm pretty sure. Also, it's no big deal, because you can put the sensor on the area control, and let's say I dim it all down or up, either way, and I cut the power to the daylighting system lights, and it cuts the power to the sensor. When I re-energize the sensor, and you can take my word on it, that's going to go back to 52 foot candles, where it is designed to be. So you could think of this as being a temporary override on the sensor, on the daylighting system, provided you cut the power to the sensor with the area control. And then your area control would just be basically a plain old toggle switch. However, if you're required to have multi-level control, you would need this handheld as well, and it comes with a little holster so that you can make it readily accessible if it's required that this be in the area with the lighting. So, as far as I'm concerned, this device is probably good to go wherever you need one. If you don't require multi-level control, you don't require the remote. if you do require multi-level control, the remote is unfortunately capable of a temporary override, but as these systems are being put in problematic fashion, that they're not very good, if they're turning down too far, the room occupants might have no choice but to use some sort of a multi-level control to bring it back up to where the space is usable, and that is a darn sight better than them having the whole system just pulled out. So that's my take on it, is you should be able to install these just fine. They don't violate acceptance testing, and they probably violate design code, but things are a little unclear. So looking at the instructions for this little critter, we discover that they have a perfectly nice wiring diagram in here. Couple of them actually, one showing an aux sensor, but that the area control position is not specified, which means you're free to shut this off with the area control, the switch, and this has been done at least over 100 times on this sensor with no ill effects. It always remembers its set points, and it always goes back into automatic operation when powered up. So you would look at this as being a temporary override if you're cutting the power to the sensor along with the luminaires. And you're going to need to be doing that with an occupancy sensing device. And remember, that occupancy sensing device or system, if it's got a power pack and low voltage critters attached to it, needs to have a relay in it. Click, click. Okay? You always want that non-residential, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, effectively, multi-level controls controlling luminaires in a daylit zone should be, in essence, moving the set point down to dim the area, because we are looking at combined illumination, and so is the closed loop sensor. Now, there might be other set points in the area as well. For instance, there could be a lumen maintenance or institutional tuning set point that, despite the fact that there is very little to no daylight in the area, one of these settings would stop the lighting from going up any further. So we know that we have our criteria for what we want the space to do. We know that we have an open loop daylighting system, in which case multi-level controls would shift the daylighting set point on the daylighting line that has been programmed into the controller. But under a closed loop daylighting system, those multi-level controls can be expected to be shifting the daylighting set point, which the controller will seek for combined illumination. There might also be a demand response set point in the area. When active, that should limit the top end of the lighting, and you should not be able to go beyond it. So, our room controller area controls, when they go to adjust a daylighting system, will shift the set point. So here we see a full output condition in a space, but under partial daylight conditions, we would have our daylighting set point and a combined illumination set point that's matching that in the controller. But should we go to dim it, then we are in essence moving the set point. We've moved it from where it was programmed in the first place, in relation to reference illumination, and we have lowered it, but when more sunlight comes in, this could be expected to continue to go down, and we would expect to see the proper daylighting action in the space. But what happens if we have a multi-level control that actually allows us to drive the electric lighting to a point where we've gone past the combined illumination point that we programmed into the controller in the first place? Well, that wouldn't make any sense. And so therefore, it is out of code. If you look in 130.1d, there's no mention of being able to override the daylighting set point. However, I'm going to state that here in California, we are having a lot of daylighting systems removed. I hear rumors of it all the time. So here's my take on it. There is no acceptance testing to check for this happening. There is no acceptance testing for the location of area controls, with the exception of some for automatic time switch checkout. They ask you where the area control is, but it's a moot point because it might not be required to actually be in the area. I'm getting off subject though. But typically, throughout, acceptance testing does not ask for the location of area or multi-level controls. It does not ask whether you have the ability to override a daylighting set point or even a demand response set point in an area with the area controls once daylighting action is occurring or once demand response has been activated. So my take on it is this. If you have a multi-level control that overrides the top daylighting set point in an area for combined illumination, if it is a temporary override, you can probably let it slide. Temporary overrides would become disengaged, if you will, and drop back to the true daylighting set point after a specified period of time, or when the system has taken an action such as occupancy sensor timeout or automatic time switch or scheduler timeout. And that would bring us back to our daylighting set point. And in the case of the little LS301 that we're looking at, simply cutting the power to it and restoring it will actually put it back into proper daylighting action. So that would be considered to be a temporary override, provided that when the room becomes unoccupied, it cuts the power to that LS301. So something like that. Also, hitting any of the other buttons on the area control might put it back into automatic operation. So this, while it is a design violation in the code, is not an acceptance testing violation. And frankly, I would rather see systems with temporary overrides that allow the room occupants to bring the lighting up than to see the system torn out because it's turning down too fast or turning down too much, however you want to look at it. That's why daylighting systems get removed. If nobody knows there's a daylighting system in the room, then you're in like Flynn. Just heard a story from somebody who had installed a sophisticated lighting system. They went back 2 weeks later to interview the room occupants. They said, oh, the occupancy sensing works great. The multi-level control works great. The personal dimming at my workstation works great. But when they were asked about the daylighting system, they said they didn't even know what the person was talking about. They hadn't noticed anything special happening. And he had to point out that near the windows, the lighting had dimmed down. They didn't even notice it was active in the room, and that's what you're after.